For many commanders, it's the ultimate nightmare. Rank upon rank of enemy Battanian Fiend champs. Archers so thick, their arrows threaten to darken the sky itself. By the end of this episode, you'll learn a battlefield command tactic so powerful, you will not only lose your fear of the elite enemy Archer Vanguard, you will look forward to facing it. Practice in this skill will make you confident in your knowledge that in a few minutes, they'll be broken to pieces and running for the hills. Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, and we remain dedicated to advanced field command and tactics. In this series, we are going to engage in some tactics that have a lot to do with terrain, in particular, the reverse slope decline defense. Now this strategy is primarily used against archer-heavy armies, which are some of the hardest ones to deal with in Bannerlord. If you're facing a strong foe with lots of archers, how do you deal with them? Now we've covered infantry-heavy armies excessively on the channel. This is one of the more difficult ones. However, if you use this tactic correctly, you will destroy archer heavy armies. So much so that we're not going to fight foes of equal strength. We're going to give ourselves succeedingly more difficult challenges here. I've just opened up the custom battle menu, and with all tier 4, 5, and 6 units for both sides, we are going to try to defeat harder and harder foes. Now you'll notice we're playing Sturgia for the first battle here. Typically, Sturgia is considered the weakest archers in the game, but again, if you use this tactic correctly, identify the terrain, you will do just fine. This on the left is not as good. On the right here, it's a little steeper, and there's a pocket to put our troops. By the end of this episode, you will clearly understand how to use this tactic and how to look for the terrain that will enable you to perform this tactic to deadly effect. Now, very simple. This first example here, we're just going to do 5 divisions, and I will increase both the difficulty in terms of foes and also the complexity of this, the tactical formations here. This first one, almost anybody who has any semblance of field command should be able to easily do this. Now they're sending in horse archers initially, so we need to get set up quickly. And the big key, of course, is having a sharp ridge between you and the enemy. What that does is it forces their archers to come over that ridge, forces their horse archers, their infantry, their cavalry, right into the waiting arms of your archers. Now, both armies are going to be archer heavy for this whole series, and this does happen in Bannerlord. You will run into an army that has 400 sharpshooters or 300 fiend champs, and it can be very nasty to deal with. Now, one of the keys here is the enemy is attacking us. If you're trying to attack an archer heavy army, that's a whole different episode. We will cover that, and we have covered that in length, but in future episodes we will cover that. Now, they're little pathetic horse archers here trying to circle, but this is the main thing we're worried about, right? Hundreds and hundreds of sharpshooters, Northern Empire sharpshooters, and they are walking right into an absolute destructive hail of darts. You can see the throwing weapons coming through here. You can see the archers just lighting these guys up, even though the Sturgians don't have particularly strong archers. Now, I'll cover different advantages that each kingdom has, because believe it or not, the Sturgians do have an advantage here. They have lots of ammunition. I know that seems like a strange thing to consider, but in a battle like this, where ammunition may run out, you may run low, especially because there's a lot of foes to kill here, we're outnumbered by 50%, having more ammo can be very, very beneficial. In fact, I'm not going to micromanage our units much at all. They're just on auto fire, destroying anything that comes up to the line. I mean, their units are just in a complete destructive maelstrom, and their infantry is worthless, right? Their infantry is just standing there. Now, back here, we have our cavalry just holding the line there, and their horse archers here really do look like they're in a daze trying to walk through here, and they're being mass executed as well. This is actually a really devastating example of this, in part though because the AI is not performing even some basic tactics. They should be sending their infantry. Now it's too late, right? Now they're moving up their forces, and their archers are running downhill. Frankly, they don't have a clue what to do here. Now, it wouldn't matter what they do. Now they send their infantry, right? We've got a big square. It's just going to eat this infantry, right? This infantry is going to attack the square, and they're not going to be able to do anything to it, right? We can actually drag the square down the hill a little bit here while our archers strafe everything in sight. You can see from the power bar, the enemy's lost almost half their troops before their infantry even reached our lines. Now, the cav wings there are set up strictly for defense, just to sort of fend off some of these pathetic enemy cavalry charges. And we can start to conserve arrow, but you see they have half of their ammo left, right? There's just no reason to do that with the Sturgians. You have weaker archers with Sturgia, but what you have is you have staying power. You can shoot your arrows for a longer period of time. Why is that important? And here we're just going to charge. This battle's over. You can actually see from the power bar we now have a better power chance to win, so to speak, than the enemy. F1, F3 would probably work here. In other words, an all charge, and indeed the enemy flees off the battlefield. Just to finish that point, though, Sturgia is a very defensive kingdom. Their squares, their shield walls are excellent. And so the advantage, of course, of having lots of arrows is that you're okay fighting a war of attrition. And look at the KDR there, right? This is the weak Sturgian archers with a 7-to-1 KDR against a force that outnumbers us. All right, so let's go ahead and most of this I will edit for you. We will do little excerpts like this, right? I'll show you what happens if the sergeants fight here. I'm not going to do this for each of these battles, but just to give you an idea, and also just to show you that we don't have some kind of advantage. These are all the exact same troops that we just used. We'll give the AI here 60 seconds to stagger about and show you that it wasn't just our units that were winning there. It wasn't like, you know, we have some inherent advantage here. It was strictly the tactical layout. Now, ironically, they're almost setting up a peekaboo-ridge. There's a little bit of a ridge here where the enemy is sort of concerned about, and the Sturgians are holding that far side. I've never seen the AI do this, but I think this is merely happen chance. I think it's random. In fact, they already gave up their peekaboo-ridge. They're reversed the slope climb by running all over the place here. I don't know what the fuck they're doing, to be perfectly honest. They look like they're running up into the hills like worm tongue. Make sure you got your sack of rice, you dipshits. I really have no idea what they're doing. Half their archers can't shoot. Who knows what the fuck they're doing. I think they're trying to deal with these horse archers. Now they're doing, now they're doing the worst possible thing. They're going to go over this ridge and expose themselves to the enemy. This is about the worst strategy known to humankind, right? I have no idea why they suicided over that ridge. And this battle is going to end in a bad way very soon. Now they're charging with their infantry to attack with the full force of our infantry, even though we're badly outnumbered here. These archers can't shoot. They're pulling archers down these ridge. These guys, they can't even shoot. These guys, well, at least a lot of them can't shoot. They're just standing there. Of course, their vanguard is going to get destroyed by a massive amount of enemy forces. Charge the lion den. Everybody screams and gets killed. These archers are left now to hang out to dry. They haven't even obtained a 1-to-1 kill ratio. In fact, they've had twice as many guys killed as they've killed. So a battle where we got a 7-to-1 KDR, you put the sergeants in charge and they get a 0.5 KDR, right? For every man they kill, they lose 2, right? You've got your general, and this is what happens, of course, in the game. When you've got your generals on the other side of the map, they get destroyed. All right, enough of that debauchery. I won't do that for all these battles because you guys inherently know if you're outnumbered by 50% or worse, you're not going to win, right? You're just not going to win with the sergeants being in charge. All right, so I've reloaded it and skipped some of the process for you. We will do Valandia against the Northern Empire here, kind of speed this along. Again, tier 4, 5, and 6 units only on the battlefield so that the forces have even strength and we are outnumbered by 70%, right? They have almost 700 troops, and we will try a slightly different battlefield. Okay, so here's the ridge we want to defend. So obviously we need to try to get there in a hurry. If the enemy gets to the ridge before you're set up, that can deliver nasty consequences to you. You have a little bit of leeway with that. In other words, if it's just horse archers or cavalry of the enemy that arrives before you, it's okay. Now, we'll do a little bit of an adjustment here, a little bit of an added change to this. We're going to have a shock troop division. We're playing the Empire, so we're going to have Manavliatons, and we're basically going to make the 1st Division with shields, and then the 6th Division Actually, let's change this. I have it set to higher preference. All we have to do is change that, and now these guys are all Manavliatons, right? Almost all Manavliatons. That's key. We're going to have a square that plays defensive in the 1st Division up here, and then behind them, we will have this 6th Division playing the Shock Troop Division. The 1st is defensive, the 6th is offensive. That's just a little wrinkle we're going to add to this one. Now, we need to rush to that line, like I said. If the enemy gets there first, especially with archers, the battle's over. We must get there before their archers, but you can see they're quite a ways off there in the distance. We shouldn't have a problem getting there. Now, I'll continue to use the RTS mod through much of this, right? Our horse is on crack here, and I will continue to try to show you the overhead of this. I understand this tactic is complicated, especially if you've never done it before, and there are little intricacies that are essential. See that infantry line there? You want them right at the edge of the ridge, but not sticking over it, right? If your troops, of course, have their heads sticking over the ridge, the enemy will be more than happy to shoot their heads off. Fans of first-person shooter games understand this concept, right? If you're coming up to a ridge and you're going to charge something, capture the flag type of game, you don't put your head over the ridge until you're all charging. In this instance, of course, because the enemy's charging us, we're never putting our head over the ridge, right? We're going to make them come to us. That ridge is our friend. That ridge is our defense. Now here, we're going to use this 7th Corps. I'm just pulling these guys off the horses with their horses parked right in front of a cav division. And what that does is it gives us a few more foot archers. They're a little bit more accurate when they're not on a horse. And all those horses will now get in the way of the enemy as they charge in. They will kind of mill about and remain on the battlefield. And, you know, sometimes they'll run off the battlefield, but a lot of those horses will benefit us in this battle. Again, getting these archers nice and close. If they're too far away, the archers will get shot by the enemy, and also your damage is lower. If I put them way out there in the trees, not only will the enemy shoot at them much earlier, your forces aren't going to do much damage. You want these guys close. That way they're shooting at the enemy at like 40 or 50 feet away, 100 feet, something like that, right? It's much more damaging if they're close. So again, the enemy's coming up, and they're showing signs of consternation here, right? These guys are very concerned. They're like, there's nothing to shoot at. What do we do, boss? Well, we're going to have to advance here. And again, you can see they have 179 sharpshooters, right? We're so badly outnumbered here, and it's just not going to matter. This might be a lot more bloody, right? Each of these battles is going to be less lopsided. That first battle was bad, right? 7-1 KDR. The more and more outnumbered you get, the harder this becomes. Still, now there's like 3 guys shooting here. You know who these guys are shooting at? They're shooting at our cavalry down there, right there. There's a few of these cavalrymen in the 3rd. You can just tuck these guys either closer to the line there, or you can actually put them under the ridge, and then they're even more protected. And then what that does a lot of times is it makes the enemy move up. Now, as soon as they got visible there, they just got immolated by a total round, a total volley of arrows. You see these horses milling about. Here comes a charge. In fact, perfect. Let's watch this shit. The cavalry charges in, and they're like, damn it, there's horses in my way. They're getting slowed down. That guy ran into one. There's a cav line there. They're getting shot to pieces. The enemy's committing an all charge here, right? So we're going to move this square to the side. On the other side there, that cav division can be told to square. Squares are your friend for defense. And then this shock troop division, now that the enemy's kind of pulled to the side, charge. All these Manavliatons, they can now attack foes that probably have their back turned to them. In fact, you can see the death span there. There's a lot of Manavliatons scoring kills as well. Frankly, it's just chaos and bloody. Now, the enemy does have some archers, some crossbow up here shooting, but not very many. A lot of their archers, crossbows, can't shoot because of this ridge, right? If they were to run over and give all of their guys line of sight, they would suffer incredible injuries because there'd be such a period of time where they couldn't shoot. Now, back here, their cavalry's kind of menacing our archers a little bit, but enough archers are shooting here that the enemy's reeling. I mean, they're definitely getting abused. Now, like I said, this battle's a lot closer than the previous one, but the enemy's still being scorched pretty hard. We need a 2-1 KDR to win here, and again, look at these guys at the back. They can't shoot. There's a guy in front of them who's getting shot to death. That's why they can't shoot, right? In fact, this battle is all but over. You can actually hear their troops routing. I'm going to have some of our units charge here. And just like that, the enemy broke. Another situation where we're badly outnumbered and the sharpshooters head for the hills. All right, so now let's try Aserai versus Khazate, and we're going to try a little bit of a different situation here. Of course, they're going to have the cons guards and marksmen and stuff like that, but let's try a village defense. And a village defense, you might be saying, well, that doesn't make any sense. You're saying reverse slope decline. There are some villages in the game that have excellent reverse slope decline situations, and I will show you in this example. Now, again, the Khazate have their nasty cons guard, they have their nasty archers, and village exploration really should be part of your game if you're playing a campaign and you want to engage tactical advantages, right? There are different villages. Some of them are really bad for tactics. They're just kind of open and there's not much terrain to use. Here, we will use Hoka, which is a very common Khazate map. And then we will give the enemy a massive amount of Khazate. 860 here versus our 408. So we're outnumbered worse than 2-1 here. This is a battle 100% of the time. Normal tactics, even good tactics in the open field, you're going to lose. If you don't use terrain, this battle is over. It's not a bad looking town. There's some nice areas to sort of funnel the enemy, but we're going to perform a reverse slope defense. Now, there's a little caveat to it, right? This is going to be the death camp. This is going to be where we bury all the Khazate after this battle. This is the ridge. Look at how nasty that is, right? It's sharp, and it's also jammed between these rocks. Here's a critical point, though. If I just put all the units right here, the enemy will not approach us over that ridge. Why? Because the enemy AI tends to go from the easiest point A to point B. And so they will come through the valley, through all these houses, and engage us on the side here where we have much less of a ridge for them to go over. We want them over here on the left. So how do you get the enemy to do that, right? We're going to triangulate the enemy by starting off way over here to the left and kind of pull their whole force up onto this upper plateau. Then we will retreat to that camp and perform the reverse slope decline defense. One of the key things to understand with the reverse slope decline defense is there can be multiple phases in a battle. You might have an initial reverse slope decline defense and then change it later in the battle because there's another one with a better opportunity. Sometimes you're going to have long rolling battles in Bannerlord. Now, 3rd Division, shock troops in this battle, right? We're going to use all 8 divisions, which I know overwhelms some players. You do not have to use 8, but I'm going to show you how effective it is here. And I'm not sure we could win this battle with 4 or 5 divisions. We need that kind of precision. We need that kind of tactical opportunities. Now, I'm just going to have 2 divisions that are mainly engaging the enemy while we draw them in. The 5th here and the 8th. And frankly, these 8th guys, we're giving them Medal of Honor medals before the battle even starts, right? We're going to give these guys because these guys are sacrificial, and I will show you in a moment. All right, so we want the enemy to come up to this plateau, so we're not going to move our troops here until the enemy has started to come in our direction. Hopefully that makes sense to you fellas. You'll see it in motion here as they advance. And look how badly we're outnumbered, right? It doesn't get a lot worse than that. If you're in a situation where you're outnumbered 2-1 and you don't have a terrain advantage, most of the time you're going to lose. And I want to put the caveat that we have the equal strength troops here. A lot of guys run around, crush recruits and stuff like that. If you're facing an equal quality unit and you're outnumbered 3-1, unless you have some great tactics, you're going to lose. All right, so 8th Corps sent forward. They're the bait, right? We're basically going to use them to absorb a lot of these horse archer arrows because that's what's coming up first, right? We're fighting against Khazate. They have 200 horse archers here and probably 50-ish plus cons guards and a bunch of other nasty horse archers. Now, the rest of our troops, we can start to set up now that the enemy is being drawn towards our left. This archer's spread out here, and we basically want to fill this valley full of archers, right? We want to give these guys different angles. That way, if there's enemies approaching at a unique angle, these guys can shoot them. We're going to hold the line here with the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That's infantry. 2nd is cavalry, and the 3rd division is shock troop. We're going to kind of tuck down by the tent. Over on the right, we'll put the 6th division in a square, and that's just to help us in case the enemy has a flanking cavalry charge. Now, these archers are being shot, but we're going to feed the enemy the 8th Corps and retreat with this archer division. These guys were very briefly here just to pull the enemy up onto this plateau, and mission accomplished. Those guys have done their job. They've taken some arrows in the back. In fact, we're suffering losses on the retreat here, but that's okay. It's essential that we pull, and you can see their whole force is now coming up on the left here. It's essential that we pull them up in the valley. Now, this 7th Corps I'm just using to shove a bunch of horses there to jam up the way here. I want these guys basically clogging clogging the area in here. That way when they charge with cavalry and whatnot, there's a bunch of horses, just like the last battle, that kind of get in their way. And again, this battle, you must operate with correct tactics. You're just never going to win this unless you have good tactics. I don't even know if we can win, but as long as it's close and tactically interesting, I will definitely just add this to it. Of course, if you're watching this, then you know there's at least a very close battle here to show you, or a successful battle. All right, so here comes a cav charge. I was worried about this. I've got this 6th Corps here, and we're just going to hold our ground, right? Our archers are going to do the work, and we're just going to put our shields up here and try to hold the fort, right? In come like 100 Khazate heavy horse, and we're just holding our square here, right? Our guys are holding out. Over there, the 3rd Corps can be unleashed, right? Those shock troops that are just standing there with their executioner axes, let's get them involved. Now, here's the key, and I've mentioned this before. Do not go over that ridge, right? We're going to stay down here in the valley. In fact, if the enemy's sort of fighting in the valley, just have your 3rd Division follow you, and they will wail away with their executioner axes while you're, while you're having them follow you. Now, another little wrinkle here, just because I am concerned about ammo in this battle. It's going to be a lengthy battle. We have a lot of enemy to kill. I'm actually taking a whole archer division, telling them to hold fire, and I'm kind of tucking them into this tent. These guys right here, they're not shooting. Those guys are simply holding fire. At some point or other, we're going to unleash those guys, but I want to conserve ammo here at the beginning. What I'm expecting is a huge infantry and archer wave to come over that hill as the enemy finally starts to push up. Right now, it's mostly horse archers and cavalry. And I think I see the shields coming up now. Right at the edge there, you see their infantry starting to come up. Now we can get these archers spread out. And that 5, 6, 7, 8 extra arrows that those guys did not shoot, that should pay dividends later in this battle. By the way, the Aserai have a similar situation to the Sturgians. They have a lot of ammunition for their archers, some of the most. Like crossbow have some of the least, so your Valandian units, you have to be extra careful with your ammo use. In this case, the Aserai have a lot. Still, we want to conserve ammo. Now, I'm just sort of charging and counter-charging with the 3rd Corps here. I've got this very strong line of infantry and cavalry. The archers can now be told to fire at will, right? And all these archers will now add their arrows to this maelstrom. And the enemy infantry is really trying to push in here. They're charging at this line of cavalry. We've got these guys protected, though, and they have archer support. The enemy really can't get their archers in here very well. Not only are our infantry going crazy in here, but they're all they're getting the assistance from these archers, right? This 150 archers back here are doing work. Now, this 7th Corps, the guys I took off the cavalry, those are horse archers, we're going to have them charge. A lot of those guys will run out of ammo earlier because the horse archers for the Aserai have 1 quiver of arrows. Now, their archers have ran up here in a big zerg, so it has gotten messy. In fact, they're like making a suicide push with their archers. And it's kind of suicide, right? They're trying to spread out under fire. That's not an advised tactic. In fact, they're rethinking it. A lot of these guys are sort of regrouping behind the hill here. That said, they still have a lot of troops here. In fact, their infantry, they had so many infantry, even though we have archer support, is wearing down our forces, right? We're down to scraps here. In fact, our regular infantry and cav lines are all but gone. 3 guys, 1 guys, right? They're almost dead. So what I'm going to do is actually control these guys right at the ridge of the hill here. And again, with the enemy regrouping, we will hold fire. In fact, there's a little vanguard here. Don't know what these guys are doing. There's like 6 Khazate units trying to hold on here. Oh, shit, we get shot off our camel. That was bound to happen. Oh, here come the archers again. So we attack, fire at will, and then charge with that 7th Corps, right? We want a sword in their face. Just like Napoleon, right? Chasing the English, sword to their kidney, right? We want these guys up in here. See, a lot of their archers can't shoot because of the ridge. Meanwhile, they're being scorched. And it's not complete death spam, but I like our chances here. Our archers are beautifully set up. Theirs are not. On top of that, we have guys with a sword and a shield in their face. This Khazate force is going to rout. Well, maybe after they kill a couple more of my guys. Charge! All right, our archers are moving up. It's close. Let's take out a few more guys here. I'm getting my ass kicked this battle. But look at the power bar, right? In fact, they're starting to rout or reform, and this battle is over. 3 for 3. It's all going to hell, he says. So this gives you a good example of how to use a village, right? And there are quite a few villages that have a lot of interesting terrain. You shouldn't neglect this in your campaign. It can be very powerful. And again, a highly successful battle. We're pushing probably a 3-to-1, maybe a 4-to-1 KDR here. About 3.5 to 1. Half of our forces survived, despite being outnumbered that badly. All right, you've watched this far. Let's go ahead and try an ultimate challenge here. Let's try being outnumbered 3-to-1, and we will take the ultimate kingdom for a reverse slope decline. We will try Botania. All right, so just exploring a few of the maps here. There are a lot of maps that won't work for this, by the way. There's for sure maps where reverse slope decline does not apply. It can be a very flat terrain where there's no ridges at all, and we will just look for a couple maps here and play against the Sturgeons. Now, let's give them just a ridiculous amount of troops, right? Let's just make this unbelievably difficult, and to hell with it, right? Let's just max this shit. 1,000, and let's give us less than 3-to-1, right? We're basically hugely outnumbered. Actually, I guess that's right about 3-to-1 here against Sturgia. Now, Botania, part of the reason that they're so well suited, of course, is that they have the elite Botanian Fiend Champ. There is no better archer in the game. People like Khans Guards because they move, that's fine. But for pure foot archers, nothing beats a Fiend Champ. All right, that ridge should do, right? I just tried a couple maps here. I backed out of one. I'll probably just edit that out so you don't have to see that. And we will give this a shot. This is going to be unbelievably difficult. This may not be possible, right? We're outnumbered 3-to-1 here by the same quality units. They're going to have tons of Druidic champions and tier 5 line breakers, and their units do pretty well against shields, right? They're Sturgeon veteran infantry and stuff like that. However, in this battle, again, they have about 60% archers. That's going to be the disadvantage for them. They're not particularly good archers, and that ridge right there should work. It's a little questionable. And again, let me spend 30 seconds talking about the ridge. The ridge needs to be fairly shallow from the point where your guys are setting up. In other words, the distance where I'm at now to where the enemy can set up can't be like 200 meters. If it is, the enemy will have too much space to set up their archers, and they will just rain down arrows on you. They need to be sort of funneled and compressed into a relatively tight area. And just like I'm practicing here on the custom battle, I would recommend you try practicing on the custom battle menu and try different ridges. Try different depths of how close your infantry is to the top, etc. Practice doesn't make perfect, but it should help you in Bannerlord. You can see this just massive vanguard of cavalry charging in on me, and look at that fucking amount of infantry and archers behind them, right? We are using the battle size mod, so that makes this even harder. The enemy has their entire force on the battlefield. Coming through a hail of arrows as we are able to get our archers set up before them. Our archers are shooting right uphill, right into the mass of it, too. So they're charging down with cavalry. I didn't expect them to do this. We will countercharge with infantry and hope that those guys can sort of beat back some of these Druidic champions. We're going to suffer some losses here for sure. They also have their Jav Cav, right? Chucking javelins into the midst of our archers. It's a good death spam, though. We like it, right? This cav line here is getting demolished, but it's also eating a lot of enemy troops with it. And here come their archers, right? Their archers and infantry now come up. Giant phalanxes of infantry and archers. And we're going to see if we can't funnel them through here. This first infantry we'll use in a square. That's essential here. If they just charge straight down with their shields up, our archers would have no chance. You've got to distract them a little bit here. We're also going to create a little bit of a funnel in the middle here. I'll put cav on both sides of this ridge and basically try to get them to sort of be distracted by the edges of our formation. And they're tiny edges, right? I've literally got 11 guys in the 6th Corps, and the enemy has 1,000 troops. Look at how many... Those shields are intimidating. But look how many arrows are being funneled straight up there, right? And their archers just got over the ridge, and a lot of them are just being shot right in the face. The 6th Corps here is throwing some javelins in, these wildlings and whatnot. Those guys are doing good work. But this is the key, right? Their archers, a lot of them can't shoot. And the ones that can shoot are 20 Battanium Fianchamp arrows right in their face. The massacre is on here. Now, it's a shit ton. Look at how many that is. It looks like it's carpeted with blue archers. Still, our archers are working, and I'm going to keep moving this square. The reason you move the square is when it's standing still, the enemy can pound on it. If you make the square move a little bit, just every once in a while, move it 20 feet. Left or right sometimes helps because it exposes the enemy's side. That makes those guys chase the square, and it exposes them to this nasty archer fire. Look at these guys working. And that death spam looks great, right? We need a 3-to-1 kill ratio. I would say they're getting a 4 or 5-to-1 at this stage. Every once in a while we have 2 or 3 losses, but this square is holding. That is the essential key. They're barely holding, though. This is going to be close. I hear routing Sturgeons. That's always a good sign. I think we got this shit. These guys are badly funneled. That was like a 30-to-1 kill ratio. All of a sudden, it just fizzed green. We'll give them some infantry standing in a shield wall there to distract them. And I think this battle is over. I mean, this has been a massacre. And a perfect battle to end this on, right? You see the immense power, of course, of the Fianchamp, but also a reverse slope decline strategy. You would never win this in the open field. As strong as Fianchamps are, if you just tried to fight this in the open, you would be destroyed. All right, we're going to wrap this episode up. Let's cut down their leader here. In fact, let's cut down a couple of these coward retreating guys here, teach them a good lesson, and we're going to wrap this episode up. Again, this episode covered the reverse slope decline defense. I sure hope that after watching those 4 examples with some of the help of the RTS mode, you guys can now start enacting this tactic in your own game and get a 7-to-1 kill ratio like we got here, right? Just a complete destruction of the enemy. All right, so if you want to see more from the channel, more tactics, you want to hear some more profanity, you are in the right place. I appreciate you fellas. Please hit that like button on the way out. I mean, I guess you didn't, unless you didn't like it, then you don't have to hit that button. Now you see this Sturgeon massacre. All right, friends. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you, friends, next time.